Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Good evening tonight. A lot of problems with the internet, but we're going to use some data here. So come on in. I have Bella here with me. How you doing, Bella?
Hi everybody.
Are you ready to do a read-through?
You know this is what I do on YouTube, so.
Yes. We got
my
this
resume.
We got this transcript, and I gotta tell everybody, look at the thumbnail of my video. Why in the world would they ever say that it was the state of Idaho as the plaintiff and Brian C. Kober, and they have it as defendants?
Because they didn't have me do the copy editing.
Okay.
Would have been caught.
I mean, hot damn, this is a redacted copy, so I wonder if there are defendants plural and they just happen to not
redact them. They redacted them.
Well, they redacted the defendants, but they didn't change the word defendants to just defendant. So I caught that. I put that out there on my channel. People could say, "Oh, that's clickbait." No, bitch, that is an error that either needs to be corrected on the record, or it's not an error. And Brian Kober has some co-defendants. I mean, it's one or the other, right?
It is.
All right, cool. So come on in.
It's a good catch.
That's a good catch. Can we go ahead and shut off? I want to dim the lights, and I want to take off that fan that's upstairs. I just want it to be so perfect when we do this read through here. As soon as the internet comes back on, guys, I will do it so that you guys will be able to follow along and see the transcripts. But we have no internet here, so I'm doing everything off of data, straight data. So, again, this is 175 pages, and we are doing, I will be Ann Taylor.
Well, why don't you be everybody and I be witnesses?
Okay, yeah, you're
just gonna keep it simple.
Yeah, you'll be the witnesses.
So you'll be every lawyer.
I'm everybody.
You'll be the judge, and you'll be the jury. You'll be everybody, and I'll just be the witnesses.
It's something like that, right? All right, I can't even mess around from here we go. You know what I can do? Let's go like this. I can think, if I put my camera on from the back end,
yeah,
they could probably, I mean, if you guys want to see,
as we read,
I can try to do it that way. But I feel like if you guys just want to soothe out and just start taking shots to the face, you guys can listen to us.
Yeah, sit back and relax. Get a beverage.
Yeah,
Get some popcorn.
All right, you got your certified transcript?
You certified it though, right?
I certified this shit.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, so let's go on the record in State v. Kohlberger. CR 0124316665. Present in the courtroom today are the defendant with counsel. So right there, that got cleared up real quick. The defendant, unless that was redacted, but with counsel, Miss Taylor and Miss Massive. Is Mr. Lawson here? Miss Taylor says. Mr. Lawson, he is here, Your Honor.
You know what? I'm going to be the court. I'm going to be the judge in this part, and then you be Taylor, because
okay,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
so go ahead, Miss Taylor. What were you saying?
Mr. Lawson, he's here. He's just taking a shit. Give him some time.
Jesus, never in my life. Okay. For the state, we have Mr. Thompson, Mr. Nye, and Miss Jennings.
Yes, Your Honor.
We have a number of people in the courtroom. Are they all part of counsel team or witnesses that are to be called today?
Both, Your Honor.
Outside of those two categories, that's everybody?
Everybody here is a consultant or witness, now turned pro hac vice Vicabarlo. I'm not quite sure who's on the prosecution side over there.
You're going to be Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Thompson. Miss Allen is from the Attorney General's office, and Miss Miss Workman is our victim witness coordinator.
All right. Before we get going this morning, I understand the first portion of today's hearing will be to put on evidence related to the IGG suppression and Frank's issue. In terms of witnesses, what are we doing in terms of excluding and or exceptions to exclude based on experts?
Well, Your Honor, the parties have stipulated that the witnesses may be inside the courtroom for the entirety of the proceeding. The state has their witness. That's a remote witness. And that's fine for the person to listen in.
So that person is appearing remotely?
Mr. Nye. Yes, Your Honor. That's correct.
Do we have them up?
The clerk. They are not connected.
They are not connected? Did you give them a link? Did you ask for a link?
Mr. Nye. Yes, they let us know they received the link, but we're okay getting started, Your Honor. He does not need to be here.
I was told by my law clerk that defense intends to refer to exhibits that they don't have copies here today for the court.
Your Honor, Ms. Taylor. Your Honor, there was a stipulation that all of the exhibits that were attached to the IGG motion and the Franks motion, is that right, would be admitted. I'm happy to give the court my copies. That was about 1,000 pages worth of stuff, so I did not print and haul down any extra copies. But I am happy to give the court my copy if the court wants a hard copy.
I've got a copy in the file. The only problem is trying to find what you're talking about quickly if you're referring to a distinct item within that. Typically, I'm provided copies of the specific exhibits witnesses go over. I'll do my best, but...
Ms. Taylor, I'm happy to provide the court my copy or use the Elmo, aka Hector, so the court can see the display.
All right, we'll do what we can. In the future, if you know what exhibits you're going to be talking about in particular, you should have 2 copies available for the court.
I will, Your Honor.
Anything to take up before we get started?
Mr. Nye. No, Your Honor, I don't believe so. Ms. Taylor. I don't believe so either. Thank you.
All right. The defense may call its first witness.
These portions will be played by Bella, Bedtime Stories, as Officer Payne, and Miss Lana Oriani, Truth and Transparency, as Ann Taylor. Miss Taylor. Your Honor, the defense would call Brett Payne.
Just to make sure we're not live, right, Sandra?
Sandra. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give now? I took all of my meds today, guys. I have a lot of testosterone, Sandra says. Now before the court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Sandra, thank you. Miss Taylor, may I approach the podium, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Detective Corporal Brett Payne, having been duly sworn, testifies as follows. Here is Miss Taylor's direct examination. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Will you state your full name, please?
Brett Payne.
How is your last name spelled?
Payne.
Like the pain in my ass. What do you do for a living?
I'm a detective corporal at Moscow PD currently.
How long have you been at Moscow Police Department?
Almost 7 years now.
Prior to Moscow Police Department, did you have law enforcement experience?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that?
I was in the military police corps, the U.S. Army, for 3 years prior to coming to Moscow PD.
Are you post-certified?
Yes, ma'am.
In the course of your responsibilities with Moscow Police Department, were you handling an investigation involving homicides at 1122 King Road?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your role?
I was assigned lead detective after about the first 24 hours in that case.
And does that mean that you have responsibilities for the case and evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as such, did you participate in a search for a suspect?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was the first time you heard Brian Kohlberger's name?
The first time I heard Brian Koberger's name was December 19th, 2022.
And what was that a result of?
That was a result of investigative genetic genealogy that was being undertaken by the FBI. We had a phone call that evening, and we were told Brian Koberger's name.
And before that, Mr. Kohlberger was not on your radar?
No, ma'am.
Before December 19th, was the FBI cast team member collected with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had he been collected with you?
I don't remember exactly, but it had been several weeks at that point.
And was that Nicholas Balance?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe the word was co-located, but Sandra sucks. What other FBI team members were co-located with you?
Goodness, a lot. We had technical assistant Myra Tyndall, S.A. Jacobson, and numerous other FBI special agents that were there to assist.
By the time it was December 19th and you first heard of Brian Koberger's name, had you reviewed videotapes?
Yes, ma'am.
How many hours of videotapes do you think you reviewed?
I don't remember. A lot. I can't give you an accurate representation.
In those videotapes, did you focus in on any particular ones that were of interest to you?
Yes, ma'am. In particular would be are you talking about addresses that were, how would you like me to refer to them?
How you nicknamed the cameras?
Okay, so the first one was from 1112 King Road. It was a surveillance camera, an exterior surveillance camera on a house that was immediately to the northeast of 1122 King Road. There was some footage from a Linda Lane camera. I forget the address off the top of my head. There was footage from the A&W, which is at the corner of Lauder and South Main, or Highway 95. There was footage from an address on Indian Hills. There was also footage from a Ridge Road camera. And that's how we referred to them, was basically by those names.
With those references in mind and keeping December 19th in mind, which of those cameras were your focus before you learned of Brian Koberger's name?
I would say all of them were of importance before that.
And it was later that other cameras became important? Is that right?
Those were the main ones we relied upon for vehicles, in particular, is what those ones were.
I'm going to return to that in just a minute, but I want to talk to you about interviews. Did you interview any people in relation to the case before December 19th?
Yes, ma'am.
And did other officers interview people?
Yes, ma'am.
Were some of those people the roommates of the people at 1122 King?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you review other officers' work as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have regular meetings with other officers about the status of the investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any role in deciding to pursue investigative genetic genealogy?
Yes, ma'am. It was a collaborative decision amongst the command team to go that route. But yes, I was part of that.
Were you part of the discussions during the process of the identification?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you aware that Othram Laboratories began the work on the investigative genetic genealogy?
Yes, ma'am.
What kinds of information did you receive from Othram Laboratories?
I don't remember what was received from Othram directly. I knew they were conducting their specific type of work. I don't remember exactly what they provided to us.
Did you receive some documents from them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know how many documents you received from them?
I do not.
Was it one time or more than one time?
I don't remember.
Were you part of the discussion to take the work from Othram and go to the FBI?
Yes, ma'am.
Why was that decision made?
From my understanding, Granted, this is my first encounter with investigative genetic genealogy. So, again, as a collaborative discussion, we decided that because the Idaho State Police Lab and Othram had essentially exhausted their resources, this is how I understood it, that we would move to the FBI because they had more resources available to pursue this particular avenue.
Do you know what more resources the FBI had?
The only thing I'm privy to was that they had more databases that could compare the sample to. That was the extent of my knowledge.
Do you have a familiarity with databases and the rules that apply to those?
No, ma'am.
I'll save those questions. What was your communications with the FBI about the IGG?
So our communications were just via telephone. The sample was sent to the FBI. I don't remember the date it was given over to them, but after that, there were very few conversations. And if they happened at all, they were just telephonic advising us that the process was still in the works and they would let us know when or if they had anything of interest for us.
Do you know what files or documents went to the FBI or Othram?
I do not remember.
Did you receive documents from the FBI?
In relation to IGG?
Yes.
I believe after the fact, after we received Koberger's name, we did receive documents, but I don't remember what they were.
Do you know how many documents related to IGG you received from the FBI?
No, ma'am. I believe as part of discovery, it was in the thousands of pages, but that's the best of my knowledge.
Thank you for that. All right. So once you have Mr. Koberger identified, what's your understanding of what that meant to have his name?
Just in relation to the overall investigation, is that?
Yes.
So the only thing that was given to us was Brian Koberger's name. That was it. It was conveyed to us by the FBI that it was to be taken as no more than a tip. That was it. So once we received his name, we set about doing basically an independent verification of whether or not he was involved in this crime.
I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit more. But do you know why the FBI connected Brian Koberger to this case?
So December 20th, if memory serves, we had a secondary meeting with the FBI via Teams, if memory serves. And they simply walked us through the family tree, how they did that. Now, I don't remember the details of all that. It was an in-depth conversation that, to be honest, is above my head. But they essentially worked their way through the family tree and arrived at a conclusion that Brian Koberger was a person we should look into as a tip. That's the extent of my knowledge of how they did that.
How was Brian Koberger, the name you received as a tip, linked to the case?
He wasn't until after December 19th.
What item of evidence did they link Brian Koberger to?
I'm not sure what you're asking. As far as before December 19th, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
We didn't have one at that point.
Why did you become interested in learning the identity of Brian Koberger?
Not quite sure I understand your question. We were interested in anyone who would have been involved in this. The DNA from the knife sheath was obviously the one thing we had that we thought was a very strong piece of evidence in this case. So it was that particular piece that we pursued as a potential avenue of identifying a suspect.
Is it your understanding that the FBI's work said that it was Brian Koberger's DNA on the sheath?
That is not my understanding.
What is your understanding?
My understanding is that the FBI concluded that Brian Koberger was a possible source of DNA that we should look into. They did not, to my knowledge, at any point say Brian Koberger's DNA is on the knife sheath. That was never conveyed to me.
On December 20th, when that happened, when he's somebody you should look into, what did you do?
We had already started looking into him from the previous evening. So that day, December 20th, we began going through basically our sort of standard investigative procedures that we had been doing throughout the investigation for various leads, to include basic DMV searches, NCIC offline returns, NCIC searches. We had a database called TLO, which is a credit-based search we use to find basic information. So we started doing all those things looking for information on Mr. Koberger.
And what you found is that he didn't have a criminal history, is that right?
Correct.
Is that right? Talk to me about going to Pennsylvania for the trash pull.
Well, I was not in Pennsylvania for the trash pull.
I'll ask somebody else that later. All right. So after you received Brian Koberger's name, and he hasn't been on your radar at all before, is that right?
Correct.
All right. You had pursued interviews and surveillance video. Had you pursued evidence found inside the scene at 1122 King?
Yes, ma'am.
What efforts did you make to pursue unknown male B?
You have to be more specific. I don't remember exactly where unknown male B came from.
If I told you the lab report showed unknown male B came from a blood spot on the handrail going between the second and the first floor, does that help jog your memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you not pursue that person?
At that point in time, we had already received Mr. Koberger's name. And from what my understanding was, entering another DNA profile into CODIS would remove the previous one we had from the knife sheath. So if memory serves, the discussion was, we'll hold off. We'll stay with the one from the knife sheath. If we need to, we can address the unknown male B at a later time.
I want to make sure I understand your testimony. You were not aware of unknown male B until after December 19th when you knew Brian Koberger's name?
No, ma'am. I was aware of that before, yes.
How about unknown male D?
Again, you're going to have to be more specific.
If I told you unknown male D came from a lab report from a sample of blood on some gloves, plural. There you go, Chris Dunn. Outside the house, does that refresh your memory?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
You're aware of that too?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to back up and talk about the affidavits. I think you told me in a prior hearing that you were the person that wrote Exhibit A, or the affidavit in support of the search warrants, when it came to looking for things about Brian Koberger. Did I understand that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that affidavit, when you began, was that on about December 23rd to get records?
As far as when I started writing the affidavit, is that what you're referring to?
The first search warrant that applied to Brian Koberger.
I believe it was December 23rd, yes.
When did you begin writing that affidavit?
I began writing that affidavit long before that. It had been a running affidavit because at the beginning of it, there's the walkthrough of the crime scene. There's numerous things. It was a living document, so we just add information to it. I'd say that document started, I don't know, couldn't give an exact date. A couple of weeks prior to that, even before we knew Mr. Koberger's name.
Help me understand what parts were added after you knew Mr. Koberger's name.
Well, to walk down the line best I can. So obviously there's the initial component, which is the crime scene, the testimony from the roommates. Then after that, it shifts to, I believe, the first mention of, or the first component was that Brian Koberger was pulled over by Corporal Duke on a traffic stop. He was also contacted by WSU police. His vehicle was ran by WSU PD officers. Then, After that, we included, trying to walk down through the thing without it in front of me. Okay, so then we included the vehicle information that was about the white Elantra. After that, we included his residence and that he had hit LPRs, or his vehicle had been seen on LPRs between Moscow or Pullman, and Pennsylvania. And then there was the component about where he lived in Pennsylvania.
Let's go back to that time before you started adding the traffic stop. The affidavit contains some information that you gained from other officers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you didn't write large parts of the affidavit. Is that also right?
I took a lot of language from experts and other officers and agents. That's correct.
Are you aware your affidavit, your living document, was claimed by other people as their own original document, not giving you credit, but claimed as their own? Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware that, you probably know because Nicholas Balance was co-located with you, did the two of them continually work on language to satisfy what the prosecutor wanted you to see for probable cause?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's have a pause break there. I need to sip a little. We are on page 22 of the transcripts.
Out of what is it, 175?
Okay. Picking right back up there. Did you guys catch what she just asked him? All right. Page 22, picking back up. Did you and Nicholas Balance produce a map to show a possible route of travel for your suspect?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Taylor says. And Your Honor, I am at Defendants 1A. I can either put it up here on Hector or the court with the map.
Can I see what you're referring to? There's been a lot of Exhibit A's in this case. Just as housekeeping, you had mentioned you stipulated to the admission of sounds like a large chunk of records, 1,000 pages.
Yes, Your Honor. It's the stack of exhibits that came behind the amended Franks motion from the defense.
Okay. And you want me to search through that to find stuff that you want me to rely on?
I don't. I'm happy to give you my copy.
No, I don't mean that. As you know, I entered an order in this case that I'm not going to scour the record to find things that support your claims in this case. You have to cite them in particularity. And so I get concerned when I'm told I'm going to get a large document to be admitted that doesn't sound like it's going to be the focus of the actual hearing or much of it.
Well, Your Honor, I do have quite a few more questions for this detective. I'm trying to be mindful of my role here with him as far as Franks and his work in IGG. But when it's time for me to argue Franks, when I plan to do so, what I planned to do was to argue from exhibits, identify them for the court, and hand the court my copy. So I don't expect the court to thumb through all the D1s, D2s. I just didn't bring another 1,000 pages with me.
I understand. My concern wasn't so much what I had in front of me as actual paper. My concern is littering the record with things that are not referred to. If you're going to refer to specific documents in there, that's fine. But don't expect me to go looking at things you don't refer to necessarily.
Oh, I absolutely understand that, Your Honor. Those were all put in so that the counsel would be advised.
The fact that I admit this group of documents does not mean that it is something that can be relied on, absent you actually using it.
Absolutely. I understand that, Your Honor. I don't expect the court to read my mind. Thank you for that. Detective. I'm going to attempt to put this map up here. Is that the map you and Nicholas Balance came up with to help with probable cause?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm going to leave that there for just a minute, and I'm going to ask you some other questions. I want to back up to the part of the first affidavit. This is asking for AT&T records. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And this AT&T record, is that the first set 48 hours of AT&T records?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so.
And are these AT&T records related to a phone Mr. Kohlberger had?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so in doing this affidavit, you have this working document, and I'm going to start with DM. If I say DM, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And she is one of the roommates, is that right?
We're sealed. You can use the name.
I can use the name. Trying to get a habit.
It is redacted.
Miss Taylor says, redacted. Who is she?
She is one of the surviving roommates.
And how many times was
Just put DM.
DM interviewed by law enforcement at the time you wrote this December 23rd report?
If memory serves, it was 4, I think. 3 or 4.
In the affidavit, you wrote a statement that she had heard Kaylee go upstairs yelling, "Someone's here," and run back downstairs. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you used the words she thought she heard. Do you remember that? Miss Jennings says, Your Honor, I'm going to object. I'm objecting based on the scope of what this testimony is supposed to be. My understanding was it was limited solely to the issue of Franks and IGG.
I was just about to ask the question. I don't recall the statements of DM being a subject of a motion to suppress separate from the Franks issue. Am I correct about that?
Ms. Taylor, that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so we're not at a Franks hearing on that issue. The only issue we are at a Franks hearing is on the IGG.
Ms. Taylor. All right. Well, let me rephrase. Let me start from a different place.
I'll sustain the objection.
Ms. Taylor. Let's go to the part of the affidavit for December 23rd, AT&T 1. The part where you put in things particular to Brian Kohlberger. Please note that on page 26, Ashley Jennings is very sensitive to the nature of anything about Corporal Payne talking about DM. Moving on. You put in the affidavit a traffic stop, I believe, from August in Moscow, Idaho. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? That traffic stop, was that on your radar before December 19th when you learned of Brian Kohlberger's name?
No, ma'am.
The next thing you relied on was a traffic stop at WSU. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that traffic stop on your radar before you knew of Brian Kohlberger's name on December 19th?
No, ma'am.
You put in information about front license plates being missing from Pennsylvania cars. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
The 1112 video did not show enough of the vehicle that you could see whether it had a front license plate. Is that right?
That sounds correct, yes.
Boom. So it was after you learned of Brian Kohlberger's name that became a part of the affidavit. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about the vehicle identification for a minute before I run back down through the rest of the affidavit after Brian was identified. When you worked with Special Agent Immel to identify a vehicle, was there more than one vehicle he located or identified?
I don't believe there was. If memory serves, it was just the Hyundai Elantra.
Would you agree that he was most comfortable with the years 2011 to 2013? Ms. Jennings, object, Your Honor, for the same reasons. I don't understand the scope related to IGG. Ms. Taylor, Your Honor, I'm going to ask for a little leeway on this one. I think it will be clear in about 2 more questions. It is a sealed proceeding. I'll be arguing it at Frank's.
I don't want to pollute the record, so approach.
Bench conference was had. Ms. Taylor, they looked for a 2011 to 2013. It was their BOLO. This is the bench conference. It is the BOLO, the BOLO, the BOLO. It was after Brian was identified by IGG they expanded the search, the court says.
That relates to what?
Ms. Taylor says, it's going to relate to Frank's, but it has to do with IGG and when they identified him. I have about 2 more questions along this line.
You have the separate Frank's motion regarding the scope of the car search.
Absolutely.
That we're not here for today. We're here for the IGG. I get the idea that if the IGG is suppressed, the warrants based on IGG is suppressed. That affects a lot of other things, right? But I don't think you need to get into the evidence of that at this point because it's part of the France. It's part of France. There's a separate Frank's motion on that.
Ms. Taylor, there absolutely is. The next question I'm going to get to in the affidavit after the IGG was the police in Pullman running the car. And he has laid it out in the affidavit after the IGG without stating it. So I'm doing the IGG part with him now. That car is a different year than the one the Be on the Lookout is for, the BOLO. That's as far as I'm going with the car at this hearing.
Counsel?
Ms. Jennings, I don't understand what that has to do with IGG. It's part of a Frank's hearing related to the vehicle identification. I understand her timeline, but I think that point has already been made. Ms. Taylor, this was when I was allowed to explore this witness since he's already here and we've paid for him to come here.
Yeah, but I didn't open up everything to Frank's because we couldn't get into all the other things that I understood we could get into the entry of Frank's on IGG, the entirety of Frank's on IGG, which is why I allowed it. And that's what we're going to stick to today.
Ms. Taylor, IGG flows. It makes everything.
Well, I'm not suggesting we get into other Frank's issues that sprung in part from IGG because those are separate based on, right? And so I think we need to just call about the specific IGG stuff today in terms of Frank's. There's not a separate motion to suppress based solely on that and not the IGG. If I'm not mistaken, apart from Frank's motions.
Ms. Taylor, to suppress which, I'm not following, I'm sorry.
There are motions to suppress that are not Frank's related.
Ms. Taylor, right. I'm not going there.
That's evidence we can put on today, but I thought we were gonna do that later today.
Ms. Taylor, absolutely.
There are various Frank's motions, one of which is to suppress. One of the Frank's motions is that there was a Frank's violation, but not informing the magistrate of the use of IGG in violations, as you allege them, in obtaining the IGG. That's the issue we're doing today in terms of evidence, and I want to stick to that. So getting into the car, which is separate, which I understand your argument is that IGG led them to expand the search of the cars, but that's not the Frank's issue itself. The Frank's issue itself on IGG is the IGG itself, and it's limited to that.
All right, says Ms. Taylor.
So the bench conference is done. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Ms. Taylor says, all the things in the warrant that became particular to Brian Kober were not on your radar before you learned his identity through IGG. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you elected not to put the IGG identification in your probable cause affidavit. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What led to that decision?
That decision was a collaborative decision. We made that decision in an effort to independently verify the information that was provided to us as a tip from the FBI, in much the same way we would any other tip in law enforcement. So it was not in any way meant to obfuscate any sort of information. It was simply we can validate Mr. Koberger's involvement in this incident or we cannot. That was it.
I want to thank those that have provided memberships for people. This break is sponsored in part by Latex. Grab a glove or grab a condom. Either way, hopefully you are spitting something. Thank you so much to, let's see here. We have in the house, Welcome back. It's been a minute there. Kay Miller. We also have Hoffy, the Hoffy Master, buying some memberships for people. Everybody's turning green tonight. There he is. All right. All right, all right, all right. Thank you guys for joining in. There's 521 of you guys listening. I want to see 521 of you guys thumbsing it up. Bedtime Stories with Bella is with us doing this lovely transcript read. It is her birthday here at midnight, so we gave her a microphone.
That's not why. You're so weird. That's not why. Okay.
KY Wonder Woman. Happy birthday, Bella. Everybody cares.
Aww, cuties. Thank you so much.
We're just sitting here.
I'm 29 again. You just go backwards from 30 every year.
You know it.
Thanks, guys. I hope you guys all grabbed a beverage, grabbed some popcorn.
Speaking of popcorn, let's pop some.
Really? So there's going to be popcorn popping in the background while we do this?
Yeah, I think that's kind of
okay. We'll do that. But if you guys don't know what's happening right now, so Lana is doing everything that's the lawyers, and I'm being the witnesses and the judge. So that's how we're kind of doing this. Let me get some popcorn on while Lana entertains. Really? We're going to pop some?
Just pop it.
Everyone else get your popcorn on.
Just pop it. Just pop it, girl. All right. Just want to give a shout out to my moderators as well. Thank you so much. They've had to deal with a lot lately because I've been sick, so blame me, don't blame them. They're over here like, Lana, where are you? Lana's dying, so blame me. I'm the problem. So, again. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. Getting back to things. Pop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. When they're trying to get at you. Scratch and sniff. Scratch and sniff. What? Okay, sorry. All right, those of you guys that are following along, as soon as I think you guys are enjoying the read through though, but are we ready to do this?
Well, no.
Can we do a birthday shot?
Yeah, let's do a birthday. Let's do a birthday shot. Is it noon? Is it midnight?
Girl, you got an hour and 45 minutes to your birthday. Yeah. I printed off 2 175-page certified copies, one for Bella and one for myself. She felt really special today when I left her a copy. Oh. Is it noon? Fuck yeah, it's noon every day. You like that? Is it time for a nooner? Again, you guys rock. We love you guys.
Did you guys get your popcorns while we do our popcorn so we could all be matchy-matchy?
Yeah. Thank you again so much, Crime Star. I love when Crime Star does 11/22. Shout out to the victims. We want you guys to. We want justice. Whoever is responsible, whether it's multiple people, whether it's Brian Kober, whether it's not him, whoever it is, we want people held accountable. But it starts with the truth. And I just say the judge doesn't need to speak for anybody. Let everybody speak for themselves, you know? So, all right.
Well, we're almost, but like, I have to watch the popcorn.
It'll pop on its own.
But you always have to stop the popcorn before. Yes, it pops on its own.
It'll do its thing.
It's not like Jiffy Pop like back in the day over the stove.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. There was your guys' ad sponsor. So, latex, popcorn, Fireball. Hit me up. Is the net back on? Yeah, Atlanta. No, they now quoted me at 1:30 in the morning. Trust me, I'm not a happy camper. So we're just rolling with what the best that we got here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it as much as we can do.
It's a bad day.
You guys liking that? Is that right? Is that right, Miss Taylor? I'm document fluid. My pronouns are Affidavit, Exhibit A. Detective Mowry is in chat. Thank you so much for being here, Detective Mowry. Oh, 3 shits to the wind. 3 Shitzes. Welcome to the memberships. Thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen says she's a Southern belle and she just loves it. If you guys have not heard my Southern belle accent, you guys are definitely missing out. Maybe it'll come out here when I get nasty with it. It's Bella's favorite. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, we back at it.
Okay.
All right, let me have a couple bites of this.
Put this
I just want people to hear it. You hear it?
Put it on top of the affidavits.
I love it.
Oh, buttery.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Extra butter.
You're so silly. I'm gonna just put that somewhere where you can reach it.
Oh god, so good.
It smells good.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Okay.
We're about to get into cross soon.
Oh, cross it up, baby. Okay. All right, here we go.
Miss Taylor, you feel a little under the weather?
You know that's right. All right. So, again, we're going to pick up here at top of 32. So, question, what led to that decision?
That decision was a collaborative decision. We made that decision in an effort to independently verify the information that was provided to us as a tip from the FBI, in much the same way we would any other tip in law enforcement. So it was not in any way meant to obfuscate any sort of information. It was simply, can we validate Mr. Koberger's involvement in this incident, or can we not? That was it.
As a group effort, you decided to intentionally leave that out of your affidavit?
Yes, ma'am.
Given the limitation at this point, I think that's all my questions.
All right, cross-examination time.
Okay, so I want to let everybody know something right now.
Okay.
I want everybody to know. You guys know how much I love Ann Taylor. This direct examination is right now, this is the first time I've looked at it, is a C-. And you guys know how much I love Ann Taylor. That's me being biased as fuck to give her a C-.
Biased.
No, that's me. I'm being biased when I give her even a C-. Like if I'm being unbiased, that's an F.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. Unless I see some redirect up in this mofo.
I'm so proud of you.
I know. I'm not happy with this.
I'm just so proud that you just said that, though.
Well, wow. baby, because I bring it. Like I'm about that truth train.
Oh my God, I'm like mind blown. I've known you for years. I'm just mind blown. You just blow my mind every day. All right.
I bet you are blown.
What? Blown.
All right, here we go.
All right, cross. So you are Miss Jennings. No one thinks that this is Ann. No,
okay.
This is Miss Jennings.
All right, here we go. Cross-examination by Miss Ashley Jennings. Good morning, Detective. I only have one question for you. Let's go back to December 19th. December 20th. And the information that was provided to the team, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It was a team.
This is 2 questions now, Miss Jennings. What are you doing? He doesn't say that.
Yeah. It was a team. Yeah. It was a team.
Yes, ma'am.
And who all was part of this team that was receiving this information telephonetically from the FBI?
So there were several of us. Yourself, Mr. Thompson was there. Can I just say something?
No.
God damn it. Darren Gilbertson from the Idaho State Police, Ed Jacobson from the FBI.
Oh my God, no way.
I believe there was a couple other folks from the FBI and ISP
You're
in
right.
the room.
Ed Jacobson's a fucking asshole.
You're not allowed to say things.
He's from the Moore case. I'm dead.
Oh, God.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I didn't even know he was
starting
involved.
again.
They were talking about the FBI. Holy fuck shit. That guy's a fucking idiot. Fuck shit whore.
Again.
Okay, let's start again. Sorry, take 2.
But I want to say that in the beginning, since we're taking two.
Is
it
that
so-
right?
No. Listen, it sounds like Dorothy, like when Dorothy from Wizard of Oz says, and you were there, and you were there. You know, when she wakes up from her dream.
Oh, God, yeah. She's clapping those heels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you, babe.
Okay, so ask again, because you ruined that.
Okay, Ed Jacobson. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? He is the worst. Dude, that guy couldn't catch a fly if it was dead. Go ahead.
No, you go, because you have to ask it again.
All right. Let's start back again. Miss Jennings. I am Miss Jennings.
Just answer this.
Good morning, detective.
Are we really? No.
I only have one question for you.
Okay.
Let's go back to December 19th, December 20th. Now picture Ashley Jennings with her hands and standing at the podium and touching her hands, okay? And the information that was provided to the team, correct? Like it was a team.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was all part of this team that was receiving this information telephonetically from the FBI? Telephonically, phonetically, who gives a fuck? Go ahead.
So there were several of us. Yourself. Mm-hmm. Mr. Thompson was there. Darren,
you mean my husband, Bill Jennings?
Stop.
Go ahead.
Darren Gilbertson from the Idaho State Police, Ed Jacobson from the FBI.
Sucker.
I believe there were a couple other folks from the FBI and ISP in the room. I don't remember exactly who they were. And then myself. There were numerous people that were involved.
Would it have been essentially the team leaders for the investigation?
Yes.
Was this any different than the other information sharing that occurred during this case?
Not at all.
There were routine team discussions.
Yes, ma'am. We had 2 official briefings every day of the investigation, morning and evening. So twice a day, we would all link up. And that was not just the command team. That was everyone who was not actively on an interview that would come back to the police department, sit in the same room, and discuss the information that was learned from the day. So it was very common throughout this investigation for us to all be in the same room and discussing the same information.
And now this is where I would be, if I was Ann Taylor, writing down Gooch, because Gooch was located in Boise. Just hear me out on that. Okay.
I just love that name.
I love that, Gucci Coochie. Question, Ashley Jennings. So you were not the only investigator receiving information from various sources?
Absolutely not.
So when we talk about this Exhibit A, that wasn't necessarily just your Exhibit A.
No, ma'am, it was not.
It was all the information that the investigators had up to that point.
Yes, ma'am. That is an accurate statement.
Now, related to the IGG and the information you were provided by the FBI, in the information provided, did you receive any medical information about Brian Kohberger?
No, ma'am, we did not.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay. Miss Jennings was just talking to you about the team, I guess, that got together a couple times a day from November 13th until December 19th or 20th is our target time right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Who from the FBI was part of those daily meetings?
Like I said, Special Agent Jacobson was there. Maria Tyndall was there. I believe Special Agent Rob Hill was involved. I'm trying to think of other names. I don't remember any. There were others there. I just don't remember who they were. I apologize.
That's okay. How about who else from Moscow Police Department?
Okay, so Captain Blaker was there. I believe usually Detective Vargas was there. Sometimes Chief Fry would sit in on those meetings. Most nights, Chief Fry would sit in on those meetings. Captain Dollinger, Anthony Dollinger, was in those meetings from MPD. I'm trying to think of all the others. Basically, the whole command team from MPD itself would be in those meetings. And then whoever else was available from the investigation section would also come in.
Who from Idaho State Police was there?
Darren Gilbertson was there. I believe Detective Joe Lake was there most days. I can't remember who else was consistently there. I remember those two for sure. Lieutenant Mike Mooney was in those meetings. That was the three off the top of my head.
When was the first time you talked about the identification of Brian Koberger in those meetings?
As far as when we knew of him?
Yeah.
December 19th.
How many hours of meetings do you think you had up until the identification of Brian Koberger?
Goodness, many. I don't know. It was a lot.
Twice a day, every day?
Yes, ma'am.
7 days a week?
If not more than that, yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Detective. You can step down. Defense can call its next witness.
I'm sorry?
You can call your next witness.
Rylene Nolan, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give now before the court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Rylene Nolan, having been duly sworn, testifies as follows. She is the Idaho. Well, we'll just get into that. All right, Miss Taylor calls. Good morning.
Good morning.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Rylene, Rylene, Nolan, Nowlin.
I think you've done this before.
A few times.
How are you employed?
I'm employed as a forensic laboratory manager with the Idaho State Police Forensic Services Laboratory in Meridian, Idaho.
How long have you worked for Idaho State Police Forensics Laboratory?
I worked for Idaho State Police Forensic Services since November 2002.
Did you have prior experience similar?
Prior to my employment with ISP, I did not.
How were you trained for your job?
I have formal education. I was originally hired as a forensic scientist in the biology DNA unit. As such, I was required to have a degree in biology, biochemistry, or similar. I was required to have a coursework in genetics, molecular biology, biochemistry, and statistics. And then I completed the Idaho State Police Forensic Services specialized training program in biology screening, as well as in DNA analysis, as well as in DNA database analysis. And then I've completed hundreds of hours of continuing education over my years.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
Yes, ma'am.
Which ones?
I'm a member of the Northwest Association of Forensic Scientists, the American Association of Forensic Sciences, and the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors.
Are you part of a collaborative?
Yes, I'm a member of the National Technology and Validation Implementation Collaborative.
What is that one about?
That is a group comprised of laboratory management. Typically, it depends on which portion or section, subsection of the collaborative that I've gathered together to generate ideas for best practices and guidelines for new technologies coming into forensics.
Would investigative genetic genealogy be a new technology coming into forensics?
That is one of the technologies. However, okay, our group refers to it as FIG. It's FIGG, Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy.
FIGG. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with IGG? Oh, yeah, everybody. Every last lady. FIGG. Okay. I'll try to remember that. That's the one I want to talk about today. So your group is talking about best practices for FIG, FIGG. Is that right?
That's one of our areas of focus. Correct.
Are you doing that because there are practices that are important in that discipline?
We're doing that because it's a new technology coming into the forensics world, and not every laboratory manager has a background in DNA. We also have a group on firearms because not every laboratory manager has a background in firearms. And it's just a resource for those managers as they're looking to implement new technologies.
You mentioned best practices. Does that have anything to do with things that I might refer to as standards or procedures? How about protocols?
No.
No? What does best practices mean?
Best practice is a recommendation based on the current knowledge in a field. There are organizations that come up with standards for different fields, but this group, that is not their purpose.
In your lab, do you have standards and procedures and protocols?
Our laboratory does have, we call them, quote, analytical methods, unquote, as well as our, quote, air quotes here, quality system, end quote.
Analytical methods and quality systems means the same thing as procedures and protocols?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
What that means to me?
You down with OPP?
What that means to me, darling. Our laboratory is an accredited laboratory. So we have a set of accreditation standards that we must meet. In order to do that, we have set quality policies as well as the analytical methods for each discipline. That ensures that we are consistently performing our scientific analysis in a way that has been validated and shown to be proper for the testing that's being conducted. And it also shows that we're meeting the national standards by which we are accredited. In addition, DNA has additional standards that they must meet called the FBI's quality assurance standards for forensic casework laboratories, as well as for forensic database and laboratories.
That was a mouthful, wasn't it, for you there, Miss Rowan? Like Bill Thompson? He's a mouthful for you, huh? I want to start with the first part of it that you just mentioned there, Dow. You mentioned, I think that there are standards and protocols. My definition of them that helps assure your work so that somebody could look and see what you did and maybe get the same results or understand what you did. Do I understand that correct? Is that right?
Yes. It's the methods we follow, and yes, that would be one application someone could look and see what we did.
Now, you mentioned at the very end of what you told me before, DNA has something separate?
Correct.
What do you mean?
Because our laboratory is a participant in the National DNA Index System, it's commonly referred to as CODIS, which stands for Combined DNA Index System. We are subject to additional standards set forth by the FBI because they manage that database.
What are those standards?
Those standards are known as the QAS standards. They cover everything from, when I listed the classes I had at the beginning, they decide what classes a DNA analyst coming in should have, what education a DNA technical leader should have, what things need to be included in a validation study, how facilities need to be controlled. It covers the gamut of testing.
Validation studies, what does that mean?
Whenever a new chemistry, a new instrument, a new procedure is coming online in that laboratory, we perform a study to ensure that that chemistry, instrument, or procedure is working or receiving the expected results.
Okay. And to be sure, you have to do that because you use CODIS.
Our DNA section has to do that because we use CODIS. The rest of the laboratory because of part of our accreditation standards.
Okay. And to be sure, you have to do that because you use CODIS.
I just told you about that. Why don't you tell me
Okay,
about
tell
that?
me about what CODIS is briefly.
CODIS, Combined DNA Index System, is essentially a national DNA database. It exists on 3 levels, okay?
Hold on one second. This is never heard or seen before transcripts from the closed hearing. Go ahead.
It exists on 3 levels.
Well, let's just let y'all pass what CODIS means, because I don't think it means motherfucking shit that we need to know about. So, do you have any specialized role with the CODIS database?
Currently, I'm a CODIS user. That is my only role at the moment.
What was your role in the November of 2022?
CODIS user.
Do you have any administrative responsibilities with CODIS?
Not currently.
Have you in the past?
In the past, I've served as the alternate state administrator for Idaho.
For CODIS, DNA that goes into CODIS, what kind of profile is used?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, there's different types of DNA profiles, and what goes into CODIS is known as an STR profile, or short tandem repeat.
What kind of information is in a short tandem repeat?
Can I give a brief explanation about DNA?
Sure.
So, DNA is a substance that's found in the cells of our body. Do you want to cover this right now, honey?
No, I don't.
All right, let's move on.
Do you know what an SNP profile is?
I do.
What is it, Shug?
An SNP profile is a single nucleotide polymorphism. So you're looking at a single nucleotide, whereas an STR is a series of repeating nucleotides. Do you want to get into that, honey?
Mm-mm. I would like, the SNP then, is that a closer look at a person's, what is it? Yeah.
I would like to state that I'm not an expert in SNPs, all right? And I'm not qualified in the SNP technology, and I've never, ever been qualified in the SNP technology. With STRs, depending on the chemistry, you're looking at anywhere from 13 to 25 plus locations, all right? With SNPs, my understanding is, in general, you're looking at a minimum of 10,000.
Does that mean there's more information about a human contained in an SNP than there is in an STR profile?
Mr. Nye's got to say something.
Mr. Nye, Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point. This witness is not disclosed as an expert, and she just testified she's not an expert in SNP technology.
I appreciate that with respect to her answer, I will take that into account in the event the defense intends to rely on that testimony. I took it as a sort of background about her general knowledge. I'll allow it for now. I'm not taking it as expert testimony about that SNP beyond the basic understanding of what SNP is.
Ms. Taylor, thank you. Do you remember my question?
Yes, I would assume if you're looking at a larger part of the human genome, that you would be getting a larger amount of information about someone.
I have one more question about CODIS, and then I want to move in a different area. You mentioned that there's 4 indexes, and you talked about a forensic index.
Correct.
What is that one used for?
The forensic index is where profiles generated from items of evidence can be uploaded, all right? There are rules about what can be uploaded, though. It cannot match someone known to be the victim of a crime. It cannot match someone whose DNA should be in a place outside of a crime being committed. It cannot be anything taken directly from a suspect of a crime where you would reasonably assume their DNA would be present. It must be related to a crime, and it must be believed to be from the punitive perpetrator of that crime.
So if I understand it, you use DNA, get an STR, and only under certain circumstances can you use CODIS. Do I understand that correct?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. Outside of CODIS, and I understand what that does, if you create a profile, a DNA profile of somebody, is that a separate thing? Like you do it in your lab, even if you're not going to run them through CODIS?
Yes. When we receive items of evidence or samples from known individuals, we generate a DNA profile from those.
Okay. Did you become involved in the homicide in Moscow from 2022?
Involved as the manager of the laboratory Meridian. I haven't actually done any work on any evidence in the case or issued any reports.
those of you guys that are following along on the case on page 48 of the transcripts, this is very important to understand that Rollin is the basically manager of the Idaho State Laboratory in Meridian, and she has come out on the record to say, like I've told you before, she did not do any work in this case. This is very different from everything that we've ever seen in Delphi, Indiana, where one person who is the lab manager worked on that specific case in Delphi, Indiana, and she was the only person that touched any evidence. Moving on. All right. Is it fair to say you did not go to that residence then?
Correct.
As the lab manager while I'm eating my popcorn, do you understand about what evidence has come into the lab from that case?
There was a lot of evidence submitted. I have a general knowledge of items that have come in, all right? But I could not provide you with a detailed list off the top of my head.
That's okay. I won't ask you to. As a lab manager, are you aware of different bits of testing that were done related to this case?
In general, yes.
Are you aware of a profile called Unknown Male A?
Yes.
Where did that come from?
To my recollection, Unknown Male A came from a swab taken from a knife sheath that was submitted by Moscow Police Department.
Are you aware of Unknown Male B?
I believe that was another sample. From hearing the previous testimony, that was from the house.
I would only want you to testify from your own base of knowledge.
Okay, from my own memory, I don't recall exactly where B was from.
Fair enough. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Are you aware that investigative genetic genealogy or forensic investigative genealogy was used in this case?
Yes.
What was your role in that?
My role specific to this case was facilitating the signaling of a memorandum of understanding, making sure all parties received it and had signed it. Those parties being the police agency, the prosecuting attorney's office, as well as a member of ISP's management team. And then when the preliminary report was received, my job was to look over it, ensure that it had all the required pieces in the report, and then to authorize payment of the invoice for that testing.
Well, what role did you have with the laboratory that was going to perform the FIGG work?
As far as how we came to be in contract with them? So when ISP decided to pursue a contract with a laboratory that could perform the SMP testing that we talked about earlier, we're a state agency. So we don't just get to call up anybody and hire them. So we had to go through a bid process. So part of that, my role was developing the scope of the work for that invitation to bid, as in what we expected the vendor to perform. And then when the bids came in, I was involved in the team that evaluated the documents that were submitted. And then ultimately the division of purchasing determined who won the bid.
Did Idaho State Police Forensics have a contract with this laboratory, Othram?
They were the winning bid through that process. And so they were under contract with the Department of Purchasing. Correct.
Is the contract with the Department of Purchasing that you perform these services and we pay for you for them essentially, or does it have more meat to it to talk about some of the things that you were talking about, how you helped develop, I guess, the job description and what would be required?
I'm really not familiar with the Department of Purchasing's day-to-day operations or how they operate. My role was strictly developing that scope of work. We expect them to develop the profiles that can be uploaded to the public genealogy databases. We expect them to provide us a written report. We expect the report to contain certain things, to have a header, to have a date, to list the case number, to have page numbers, those kind of things.
Outside of that description of the scope of work and the requirements, did your lab have a separate contract with Othram that basically said you agree to do these things?
We had that they won the bid from Division of Purchasing, and that's the state contract for performing that work.
You mentioned a memorandum of understanding you helped facilitate to be signed by the parties. Was Othram one of the parties that signed that?
No. This is a memorandum between the law enforcement agencies, the prosecuting attorney's office, and the laboratory.
And in that memorandum of understanding, that indicated that the interim Department of Justice, the Department of Justice interim policy applied. Is that right?
I believe it did.
Is that right?
I believe it did. I don't have the exact text memorized.
There you go. That was the big question right there is that right? You know, when she's coming with, is that right? Aunt Taylor's bringing the hammer down. Is that right? You know, that's her tell, baby. I love it. Aunt Taylor, I put your face on a is that right? Like the Price is Right. If I was to get ever picked on Price is Right, I have Aunt Taylor on the front of my shirt.
And God, really?
And it said, is that right? Tell me I would not get picked for the Price is motherfucking Right. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, because that's my childhood dream.
I know, man. The Price is Right with Aunt Taylor on the top.
Well, I just
is
like
that
the
right?
Beauties. All right, go ahead.
All right. All right. Moving on. Page 52.
No, I mean, surely, clearly.
Yeah, that's right. I miss Bob Barker.
I miss him so much.
How many of those girls do you think he was banging?
None. He loved animals. I mean, no. I don't mean that. No, that's horrible.
That's not. You just said it.
No, I didn't.
Uh-huh.
That is not. I met a Barker beauty and she, never mind.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's not okay. I love that man.
Go Bob Barker bangs animals.
No, he doesn't. Remove that from your mouth with soap. That is horrible. Go ahead.
The filth you speak on my channel.
God bless it, Lana. Knock it off.
The filth you just bring to my channel. All right. Here we go. And in that memorandum of understanding that indicated the interim Department of Justice interim policy applied. Is that right?
Where are we?
Line 15 there.
I believe it did. I don't have the exact text memorized.
If I showed you a copy of that memorandum of understanding, would that help remember if that was part of it?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I have just a moment to gather that, it's not being offered as an exhibit.
Just refreshing?
It's to aid in her memory.
Show it to the State's Counsel.
Does that look like it's refreshing your memory as to whether the Department of Justice interim policy applied?
It does say in the first paragraph that it did apply.
And Your Honor, I'm going to refer to Defense Exhibit D19 here and ask the witness to be shown that, and then I'll provide the court my copy.
When was this filed?
That would have been filed with the amended Frank's memorandum on the bottom of that page. I'm sorry.
I've got thousands of filings. I have to go by the date to find things.
Ms. Taylor says, I think it was November 18th or 20th at the bottom of the page. However, you can see some numbers in red, and those were numbered to make it easier to find.
I just need to find it in the computer first. All right. I found it in my printed documents.
Is that the Department of Justice interim policy?
Yes. The Department of Justice interim policy on forensic genetic genealogy, DNA analysis and searching.
And in section 7, I believe it's section 7 or page 7.
Investigative caution, that section?
Let me ask you the question. Are you familiar with the provisions in that policy that say if there's a prosecution case, if somebody is arrested and there's a prosecution case, all items in the forensic investigative genetic genealogy should be preserved for court purposes?
I believe that is part of, I don't think it's in section 7. It might be, but I believe that is part of preserving.
Okay. What I want to know is, what did Othram preserve?
I don't know.
What did you get back?
We received a preliminary report. In other cases, we will sometimes get back the DNA extract that was sent to them. I don't recall if we got that back in this case. Anything our laboratory receives, we return to the submitting agency.
Would validation be part of that? Validation studies?
I wouldn't assume so. I wouldn't assume that would be part of this. No.
Would bench notes be
I'm
important?
sorry, I didn't hear that. What notes?
Bench notes, lab bench notes.
Thank you. For our laboratory, we designate those as part of our case record. I'm not familiar with what Othram designates as part of their case record.
Miss Taylor. So I guess then that means you don't have any of those.
No, only the preliminary report.
All right. I will move to a different area of questioning, and it's about the requirements with Othram. You mentioned the goal was to create profiles and create a report, but to search public databases.
Correct. There are public genealogy databases that will allow entry to law enforcement samples, and that is part of the scope of work. They're required to enter it into those databases.
And are you aware there are databases that do not allow law enforcement to search?
Yes.
Were you part of work after Othram began their work to try and do an investigation?
I was not. As far as, I guess I'm unclear. We received evidence submitted to the laboratory before, during, and after for all sections. Is that what you're referring to, Ms. Taylor?
Let me rephrase my question. I think that was too broad. While Othram was doing their work, were you part of any work to help Othram? For instance, did you get any documents that you did some research on to try to help them, Othram?
No.
Were you aware that Othram was just stopped from doing any further work at some point?
I was aware of that.
And was this before they produced any results?
No. We received a preliminary report. I recall receiving that because that's how I know I can approve payment of the invoice. So I know we received that prior to them being told they were stopped.
Were you part of the decision to stop them?
I was not.
How did you find out about it?
I found out about it in an email from my laboratory system director.
Do you remember when that happened?
I don't recall.
Does the forensic lab continue to contract with Othram?
Yes.
If Othram had a file that would have validation studies and bench notes, anything that they did on the case, who would have received that?
Again, right? Validation studies would be odd to associate with individual cases. So I wouldn't assume they would do that. Again, I'm not familiar with their procedures. And as far as who would receive documents, usually it would be, I would assume, the agency which we received that preliminary report.
You mentioned you're not familiar with their procedures.
Not in detail, no.
What procedures are you familiar with?
From Othram?
Yes.
As part of the bid process, all of the bidders were required to submit, I believe they were required to submit the procedures. And it was essentially just looking over them to say, yes, they have a procedure in place for extracting DNA. Yes, they have a procedure in place for doing SMPs. So yes, they meet the minimums for the invitation to bid. But again, I'm not qualified in that technology, so I wouldn't have studied them or rendered an opinion on them.
I won't ask for your opinion on them. I won't ask you to quote them to me. But you saw those.
Yes, at the very beginning of the bid process.
This is where Ann Taylor was saying this is the first you've ever heard there was procedures in place. Question, Ann Taylor. Let's switch gears. In the case we are here for today, do you recall there being a trash pull?
I'm sorry, is there being what?
Oh, is that Sandra? Sandra, speak up for the world.
I'm sorry. There being a what?
A trash pull.
I recall receiving evidence from a trash pool, correct.
Miss Taylor says, what role did you have in deciding anything about that trash pull?
Nothing about the trash pool occurring. I do recall there being a brief. I can't remember if it was a phone meeting or a video meeting and just being asked in general what items from someone's trash are good for DNA.
Did you give some advice?
I don't know if it was me specifically or another member of our DNA unit, but we did offer suggestions on items that were good for DNA.
Did you receive items to test?
Yes.
What instructions were you given about those items?
The discussion was a person of interest had been developed and to analyze the items from the trash to determine if they could be inclusive of the DNA profile that was developed from the knife sheath. Unknown male A.
What date was that you received that trash?
The trash was received into the laboratory on December 28th of 2022.
So you were looking for a male profile?
Correct.
All right. Did you find male profiles?
I didn't perform the actual testing, but yes, there were male profiles developed.
How many?
I don't know.
Do you know anything about either male profile or any of them?
Listen here, I believe one of the male profiles designated as E as in Edward, okay, was determined they could be a biological parent or child of the profile from the knife sheath.
A child? Are you aware that Brian Koberger's DNA was in the trash?
I was not aware.
Did you become aware?
I became aware later, right? We didn't have his name at that time.
Bingo. And here's going to hear from our sponsor here at page 60. Just when all of you guys thought that Brian Koberger was separating his used items so they would not be in the trash with his family, y'all would be dead wrong. You heard wrong. You motherfucker be wrong. So Taylor just went from a C- to a motherfucker B+.
A B+?
That's my bias.
Okay, got it.
Take that for your fine ass.
I love it that you admit that. I love you. So
I'm always gonna have Ann Taylor's back.
I know.
As long as I'm on my back.
Even on your feet, though.
If I'm on my feet, she can be on the flow.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Everyone, I hope everyone got popcorn when we got popcorn. I feel like they should have popcorn.
Yeah, we told them to.
We told them to.
Well.
Okay, where are we at? On my birthday yet?
It's not your birthday yet. No.
I feel like it's midnight already.
We have 53 minutes.
I'm still young.
Definitely.
I'm still 30, not 29.
You're still young at heart, girl. All right, let's get this shit going.
Go.
Back up. Back in the saddle again.
Is that Bon Jovi?
No.
Who is that?
I have no idea.
Oh, God.
Could be.
I know. Who knows?
All right. We got the devil coming from the floorboards, baby girl.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's get the devil on this. You know, every night before I go to bed, I say a prayer.
I know you do. You're
very religious.
People don't know that about you.
People don't.
You're like
very spiritual.
Well, like the back, like should we give them a behind the scenes of Lana Oriani? That you're a very good girl.
I'm a very good girl. All right, guys. Here we go. Well, you didn't know his name on December 28th? We should back it up for the crowd. All right. And are you aware that Brian Koberger's DNA was in the trash?
I was not aware.
Did you become aware?
I became aware later. We didn't have his name at that time.
Where did your southern draw go, girl?
I know. Why are you messing with me?
Okay. You didn't know his name on December 28th?
No, I did not.
Okay. On December 28th, were you aware that not male E, but another male profile had been identified?
From
the trash.
The trash pull? I knew there was some mixtures of DNA that were also included.
One of the mixtures, did it have a male DNA profile?
I believe it did.
And wasn't that the major component of that profile with a minor female?
I believe that sounds correct.
And later, didn't that return to Brian Koberger?
We actually did not perform that comparison, honey.
Did you and I have a discussion a few days ago?
We did.
Did you tell me that you knew that to be Brian Koberger's DNA?
I said I thought that was, and I could not find the report where we had done that comparison. I've since looked, though. I've since looked through. What? That doesn't make it. Okay. I've since looked through, and we did not make that comparison. So I cannot say that he was included in that mixture. Our laboratory did not do that comparison.
I just want to let everybody know that when they say a minor component, that does not mean like a minor, like under 18. Just so everybody knows that.
OMG. L-O?
L-O in the swang swang, in the dang dang, in the wee wee.
Go ahead.
All right. But a DNA profile was made for that mixture. Is that right?
Yes.
And there's a minor female and a major male.
That is my understanding.
In Delphi, they did not use majors and minors, by the way.
No, but honey just drips off this voice, don't it, honey?
And you could, by eye, look at that and tell that's Brian Koberger's, couldn't you? Or if you wanted to?
If I wanted to, I could probably look. I did look. I did not. That was so amazing. She just bombed it. Okay, so she goes, let me just read this again.
This is so amazing. And Taylor just toe tags her. And Taylor toe tags the fuck
I don't know about that.
out of this broad.
I think that this broad just said something pretty fucking hilarious.
I think this broad's a dumbass.
I don't know, but is it my accent?
I love it, baby. Just keep doing it.
But do you think that it's my accent that's making her? I don't want to make her sound like a dumbass.
Listen to her answer. She's a dumbass.
Okay, so let me just say that again because I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so she said, if I wanted to, I could probably look. I did not.
Bitch, you caught with the cookie jar.
I didn't look, honey.
Bitch, you caught with the cookie jar.
Mm-hmm. This popcorn's so good, though, honey. She did?
Oh, hell yeah.
But see, you guys, like, that's so... I just love... If you guys missed the earlier portion where Lana said she was biased, I said, damn, girl, I've known you for years, and you surprise me every day. I just love you.
I love it.
You're just so good that you admitted that. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, love you.
I got you some string cheese.
I don't like string cheese. Thank you.
Okay, we'll give
You
it.
know what I... What's my favorite cheese?
Chopped up.
Chopped up?
Chopped and screwed.
How dare you?
Okay, it's shaven.
God damn, if you say provolone.
It's not provolone. It's shaven. It's not provolone.
God damn
Get
it.
off me right now. It's
I can't believe you don't know my favorite cheese. I only eat one kind of cheese.
Parmesan.
That's right, huh? You got it. For the win. All right.
The only reason Jax is awake right now, folks, is he's been sick all week. He's been sleeping all weird hours.
He's getting better, though.
Yeah.
We're all sick here.
We're all sick over here. Hey, buddy, you want some string cheese?
Nothing.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
He had a sushi earlier. He knows what kind. So, Jax, you know what kind of cheese I like?
Yeah, he knows you like the back of his hand.
You lost, hello. Okay, let's go.
There we go. We're gonna close out here though with
Oh, yeah.
the last. We're gonna end it so set a good stopping point for people.
Nice.
Um,
Go ahead. I think she just said something amazing. I won't repeat it a third time.
I think she's an idiot, so that's fine.
No, that's fine. But what she just said was like, it was
I
good.
did look at it. Okay.
Yeah, Osceola Murky. Yes, love. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
If you can't find the parm, you gotta. I was on the phone with Mike Drop-In one time when I was out here in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
And I was going to get shaved parm, and I was asking the deli for shaved parm, and she's like, "You're so bougie." I'm like, "It is not bougie to ask for shaved parm."
Mm-hmm.
You know you love your charcuterie boards.
I
girl.
love my charcuterie.
All right, moving on.
All right. Where were we? Okay. If I wanted to, I could probably look. I did not. Okay. That's what I said. Okay. You could still do it today if you wanted to.
If there was a request to do the comparison, again, we don't do a visual comparison evidence to evidence. Our procedures don't allow us to do that for probative comparisons.
I need you to help me understand that a little bit. I'm having that question because I understand there was an unknown male B found on lab item 30. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Wow. Okay. Well, I also that there was a cigarette butt taken from somebody in connection with the case investigation. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with that.
And that was compared to the DNA on the knife sheath. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was found to be excludable? Am I using that word right?
It was an exclusion, correct.
It was an exclusion, correct. So you compared something that was taken from somebody to an item of evidence. Is that right?
Something that was a secondary reference, as in someone identified it as they saw that person using that item, they saw that person dispose of that item. That item was collected and used as a reference sample from that person because there was someone who said that is from that person.
Okay. When you got the trash to go through in the lab, you knew that you were looking for a male, right?
Correct.
And you knew that the male and his family members lived in a house that produced that bag of trash. Is that right?
Yes, but not who produced each individual item in that trash pool.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I have to stop.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. They collected a cigarette butt from a female. Holy shit! Oh my God! Oh my God, mic drop on that mother. Are you kidding me?
Someone smokes as a chick?
Oh my God, yes!
Fun.
Yes! Oh my God, this is amazing.
Is it one of the Cobra
This
girls
is
that
amazing.
smokes?
No, they took a cigarette butt from a female. Mic drop. Holy shit! Boom, Ann Taylor. Another 1, 2 with the 1, 2. Oh! Holy! Oh my! Hello!
Real
Damn,
time.
baby! I don't even need to be in that courtroom, baby. I just need 1/5 of the discovery, and I'll tell you what happened in this case. Pay the woman. Holy shit!
I mean, that's true. Lana is the queen of discovery.
Oh damn! Hot damn! Here we go again. Let's see with the. Oh God, that was so good. Oh, mic dropping on that shit right there. Boom!
How many times
I just read this for the first time right now.
No, but how many times is everyone in on like when you read a document for the first time? Does that happen often?
No, I mean I kind of just sold it there for everybody, but that's the facts. The facts of the matter is that cigarette butt belonged to a female, no doubt. That's why the questions were the way they were.
You're just so smart, baby.
Chef's kiss, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Okay. Now, do you want to stop or are we going?
Damn.
Is that the bullet draw?
The whole point of that is that it's like, why would you be comparing the knife sheath DNA to a female if you already knew and labeled it a male? You understand?
Mhm.
Is that right? Is that right? What page is that on? That's for my brain.
But we're ending here at where we are at page 64.
Then on a page that's on my brain.
But yeah, that's from Ello's Major Big Brain.
Everybody's like, keep going. They're liking it.
Loving it.
I'll go for 20 more minutes if you want to go 20 more minutes.
Okay.
What do you think? You guys want?
Little birdie.
A little birdie. What does Birdie say? Birdie, you want to watch the movie? Yeah, Birdie wants to do my movie time before bed. I gotta do what Birdie wants to do. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna leave off, okay, on page 63. We're gonna come back to page 63, okay. We got 175 pages, so you guys can just listen to this.
I told you this is normal.
Yeah, it's a 6-hour read. You called it.
Yeah.
It's a 6-hour read. It's
Because I
probably
do transcript reads. I know what it's like
Yeah.
on YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going right here in order. So we're on page 63, and we're gonna go. Yeah, we'll do another, 70 pages tomorrow, and then we'll do the last.
On my
70.
birthday, we might give you guys some time on my birthday. Are we giving time? I'll do it. I'll do it for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. But
I'll get old with y'all.
I think where Anne's hitting home here is that, maybe they took Dylan's DNA because they didn't believe her at first. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you would. I mean, think about any scene, you guys. We're so connected to this crime, right? But like, think about a crime that just happened. You have a witness who's a survivor. You have to start in the intricate circle and work your way out. You're also gonna include Dylan as a possible suspect in the beginning until you exclude her. It's just normal. It's procedure.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to thank everybody that donated. I got 20 people. So I got Crime Star became a new member.
Welcome.
Dana. God bless my son. Crime Star. Ashley Jennings, Your Honor, I object to Elmo. It's distracting to Bill Thompson. Kay Miller came through with 20 memberships for y'all. Love Kay Miller. Kay Miller has made honorable mention to be a new mod here. I just love the way that, she knows and she shows up for all the Kohlberger shit. She's been around for day one. Crime tourist, Cyree, baby. I said if we made it to our goal that I wanted to call Cyree and ask him how the weather was, where he was.
Oh my God, don't, because it's probably.
I know, but then people be like, Lana, you are trying to mess with the universe.
With the universe.
Coffee Master, $5 super sticker. Bunny Murphy, it's Bella's birthday, is that right?
Oh, Bunny.
Is that right?
Honey.
Much love.
Thank you, Bunny.
I should just call Ann Taylor right now and say, can you just say, is that right? Just so I can have it. I'm making t-shirts, and I was like, dude, if anybody's worthy of a face on my tits, it's Ann Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
That's going to happen.
Oh, shit. Happy birthday, Miss Bella, from the...
Aw, thank you, Phil Biggs.
Yeah.
The Gilbert villain.
Thank
you so much, honey.
Okay, Miller coming back to back with the 20 smacker. Look at that. 40 memberships I've seen so far.
Amazing.
Is that right? Gifted 5 from Hoffy Master.
Oh, Hoffy Master.
And then K Wonder Woman 1999. Happy birthday, Bella.
Thank you, K Wonder Woman. You guys are so sweet.
And then
Drop it like it's
that's what I said. If the bigs try to get at you, drop it like it's hot. And then we got 3 Shitzas. 3 Shitzas.
Oh, that's a cute name. What's the picture?
3 Shitzas.
Is it really the Shitzas?
Who hopefully?
Cute.
Kimberlyn West. Whether the weather be foul.
That's right.
I'm about 50 minutes behind, and you ladies are amazing. Radio actresses. I love this.
Oh, Lori, you're so sweet, honey.
Honey. Truly's for the win. $5. $5 Truly's for the win. Charm free. Happiest of birthdays. Love you, Dals.
Oh, charm free. Thank you so much.
Love you,
girl.
baby Dals. Oh, Ocean State Crab. 6-month member. Hello,
Wow.
TNT fam. Thank God it's Friday. You gals are making me hungry. We just ate the shit out of that popcorn.
Oh my God, but she's making me hungry with that crab.
Eat a crab.
Or I should say they. You're making me you're making us probably hungry with the crab.
I got Ocean State Crab, $4.99.
Cutie.
We got Build a Tree, Grow a House.
Aww.
Oh, member for 26 months.
That's a long time.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's how many babies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you do all the time. That's true.
Yeah. Here.
9 into that. Mm-hmm.
I gave everybody a ring. I have a Lana baby and a Bella babe, finally.
Oh, Lori, Northrop. Yes.
Truth Seeker for 23 months. Damn. Here for the Southern draw.
That's right. Here's all about the Southern draw.
Look at Build a House, Grow a Tree. Somebody got tabbed up. Teresa B, new member.
Welcome. Welcome to the fam. You guys are amazing.
Yes. Anybody else? Any last questions for Bella on her birthday?
Questions for Bella. You guys, I can't lie. Like, they can't ask me questions. I can't lie.
I know. Just ask
I
her
could
something
plead
crazy.
the fifth. No, I could plead the fifth.
Come on, last question on her birthday. I'll ask you a question on her birthday.
What?
Is Richard Allen innocent or guilty?
He's freaking innocent, and everyone needs to freaking be ashamed of themselves in Indiana.
Oh my God.
And everyone needs to be up. When we
should go streaking.
Listen.
We should go streaking
Lana,
naked for him.
Lana, like, get serious for 1 second. I'm
Okay.
gonna give my birthday up for this. My birthday, whatever, up for this. No, but seriously, okay. We were there almost a year ago. Okay. We sat there in March 18th. The hearings for 2024. Okay.
We did.
Okay.
We did.
I have been screaming about Delphi for years, and I thought, okay, you guys in Indiana are hearing it for yourselves. Be up in arms about what your government's doing to you and the wool they're pulling over your eyes. And when we sat there and there was a person in front of us who was local to Delphi, and she was adamant that Richard Allen was guilty, and she had a lot to say about YouTube creators who had, quote unquote, used her for her time. She didn't know we were YouTube creators at the time.
I told her she was a fucking hoe.
But what I'm saying is, I said, how are you guys not up in arms about, even if you think Richard Allen, let's say he's guilty, how are you not up in arms, right?
About how all this went down.
How this went down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
how are you
now-
okay with how this went down if you live there?
That
This is how your money is being spent.
That the girls are lost in this, and that's the true justice. See, like, the thing of the duty of a prosecutor is to, and we see that with Karen Reed as well, is to find justice, and that's all. You're not supposed to have bias in this. You're supposed to just be about justice.
Okay,
And
I'm so upset that I asked this question.
I know.
Okay,
God,
we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
let
let
it
it
go.
go. But free Richard Allen. That's all I gotta say.
Free everybody's badge dicks.
OMG, LO on Richard Allen's name. Do not ever.
Yeah, I hope that he is, and him and Kathy get to have conjugal visits until they can do it without it.
Do you think that you would be down for that if you were
Excuse
him?
me? Down for conjugals?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
I would never be able to get.
Okay, guys. Have a good time and have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys for being here.
Oh, wait.
Thanks, LO, for having me.
Yes, thank you. Justice for all. And for all, a good night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're amazing, Bray. And you really, you surprised me tonight.
Was what?
What do you mean?
I know I'm just such a sweetheart. I
No. I don't understand how, like, I thought I knew everything about you. Like, you admitted to being biased, and you gave her a C-, then went up to a C+, admitted that it was a B+, and then admitted that it was bias that made you do it.
And then she just totally smoked fucking Roland.
I don't know about that. That was a
Yeah,
good
she
thing.
told-
Roland did a good.
No, she caught herself. She slipped, and then she had to like retract.
I don't know. honey.
Yeah, you have to hear the audio.
Okay, I'll hear the audio. But listen, because I think I did better than Roland did. That's probably why.
Yeah, because Roland's a fucking piece of shit.
Whatever it is. But
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just so proud of you for. I don't know. I just love you so much.
I'm just a rock
All
star.
right,
Thank you.
everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
This was the night before everybody lost their virginity.
What?
All right, guys, take care.